I did ICs or independent contractors for years with our business. It's what I was taught from the other fellow pet sitters that have been in the industry. I was taught that that's the cheaper way. I was taught that's the way it makes sense for pet sitting, and that's how it's kind of, quote, always been done. And so I did ICs for years, and with that came a ton of problems. And then ultimately 2 years ago, I started doing employee status for our staff instead for many reasons. But today, let's talk about how with a 5-step hiring process, I was able to get better employees through the hundreds that apply, better candidates, how I was able to retain our employees better with an employee status, and how ultimately it grew our business significantly as well because it was a sales that we did to our new and existing clients on why they should use our services instead. So hi guys, my name is Amber Van Denzen, owner and founder of Attaboy Animal Care, pet sitting and dog walking for the past 9 years, veterinary technician for 13 years, animal science degree, and all that fun stuff. So let's talk about how our 6-figure pet sitting business transitioned to employees and what those 5 steps that we created for our hiring process in the era that we were told that it was too much and people wanted quick turnarounds and we were going to lose potential candidates because of it, but how in the long run we've gotten better candidates, better employee longevity, and ultimately a bigger, more profitable business. So let's get started. First and foremost, our first step is, of course, a hiring ad. We use one platform only. We find that when we tried to use multiple platforms, it got very difficult for our managerials or myself that was overseeing the hiring process to track it all. We did Facebook jobs at one point. We did Craigslist back in the day. Gosh, who remembers Craigslist? Like, Lord have mercy. And now we do basically Indeed job ads for our company. What we do is either we typically start with a free post for one specific area only, because if you do multiples, there is a fee associated with that. And we worked on our wording of our actual post as well. We wanted to make it professional yet fun, and we wanted to have a few key things that when I used to apply for jobs, I was always looking for and were never there. Of course, the wage. I want wage transparency. Hello, we're in the 2020s at this point. We need wage transparency. So we tell very clearly what the starting wage is for all of our staff, and we start all of our staff at the same wage because we feel that everybody that comes into pet sitting with Attaboy is starting from the bottom, whether they're a veterinary tech experience or animal science degrees or just pet lovers that have extensive rescue experience or volunteer experience. So we start everybody at the same wage. And we do show the transparency of what the high end of that as well. We show what benefits we offer. And if you're curious of what type of benefits we offer with our company, definitely can make a whole video on that because that's extensive. And then of course we put like the location details of where they're expected to drive and the windows of time specifically that may be, or shifts that we would be looking for to fill. Out of that ad, on that ad as well, allows you to customize on Indeed. It allows you to customize questions that you can add in that you want them to answer while they're filling out the post. And now these are our first step of our secret sauce. These are called our culling questions. And what we do is we set up very specific questions that they need to answer, and if they don't answer, it's an automatic cull. It's an automatic no. And I know this can be really hard because we've seen some really good resumes that had all the experience we may need, but this is my first sign of not paying attention to details or not caring about our job, and maybe they're just bulk applying ultimately, and that's not what we're looking for. So we have 4 specific questions, custom questions that we have them answer, and out of those 4, one of them is a secondary cull process as well. So let's get into that. So we have our ad, step 1. We've created the wording that's playful yet professional, has all the details so no one's wasting our time. Next is the cull questions. The first questions we ask, of course, availability, clarifying what availability they have. And we put in our 5 windows of time that we definitely offer to our clients and see which ones they're available for. Now, of course, if we're only hiring for one specific window of time, of course, that would have that on there, but we would also put in the other windows, because this is what I find is they apply, they don't read the ad that says the window of time that we need them for. They say they're available for mornings and we actually need afternoons. Ding, cull question from there as well. The second cull question we have is, of course, their address. We have so many people that, again, apply and then not pay attention to the location, and they'll be an hour plus from our coverage area. That makes no sense for drive time, gas mileage reimbursements that you may do, etc. So we want to confirm their address is within or very near our coverage area, so it makes sense for drive time, mileage reimbursements, or any factors that we may need to play that matters where they actually live. The third thing, of course, is pet experience. Many people's resumes that they submit are very generic and maybe they don't have any professional pet care experience, but they may have volunteerism or personal experiences, etc. And they chose not to edit their resume, which I'm not a huge fan of, but even putting in a note in of the pet care experience, but there it gives them an opportunity to put in whatever pet care experience they may have. You can customize that to ask specific what breeds they may have, or reptiles versus dogs and cats versus little things versus farm. We kind of leave it open-ended. And then our fourth question, which is our next major cull question, which is so important. And I actually put this as like a 2A basically of our 5-step process, because this question basically tells me if they're going to be successful or not majority of the time. And this is a scenario-based question. This scenario-based question is specifically set that it gives an example about a paragraph and a half of information about a fictional pet sit of 2 cats named Bob and Tom. And this is their second visit with Bob and Tom. And they saw Bob and Tom yesterday, everything was routine. And then they get there today and they can't find Bob, but they see Tom, but they see 2 fecal matters, 2 peas, all the food and water doing well. They couldn't find Bob, and P.S. they found a vomit spot of like hairball or maybe undigested food, very minor, on the carpet. And we asked them to write a fictional update to that client. This question is going to provide me 4 main things that I think matter the most. The first thing is their just interest and willingness to actually take the few extra minutes to fill this out. 2 to 3 minutes is probably what we're expecting it to take for them to do. If they don't do it at all, automatic cull. The next thing is grammar. And oh my gosh, since they're going to be writing updates to our clients, I need to know if they're able to do that and properly. And more than half probably get culled because really bad grammar. I'm not talking about a misspelled word here or like an exclamation or question mark instead of a period. We're not talking about minor things. We're talking about really, really bad writing, not even willing, very bad, like capitalizations, multiple repeat offenses. The next thing we're looking at is the attention to detail. We want to make sure in that report they're actually hitting on every single thing we talked about. So one, we want them to acknowledge that the litter box was clean, the food and water was refilled, because that was in the paragraph as well. We want them to acknowledge they couldn't find Bob and they looked in all the obvious places. Bonus point if they ask like, hey, what's Bob's favorite hiding spot, so I can be sure to find them next time. And last but not least, we want them to address the vomit, and we don't expect them to perfectly clean it up, but we don't want them to leave it, because we say, P.S. there's a vomit spot on the carpet, but the maid is coming later, or something like that. Or P.S. the maid is coming later today type situation. And we want to make sure they don't leave it for the maid, and that shows team effort. So our goal is for them to say, hey, attempted to clean up the vomit spot, it may need more help, left a note for the maid, something like that, or house cleaners, or whatever the professional term is for that. So that is our huge question. And if they miss one thing versus the other thing, it's not the end of the world. But again, that willingness, that grammar are key, and ideally hitting a majority of the commentary that they needed for the report. The next thing is, after we saw that and we're interested in them based off of their resume, based off of their call questions. We then offer them a phone interview. Now, more often than not, this phone interview is completely unnecessary except for two main things. And the first thing is we actually, in Indeed, you can create pre-created responses, which we use to help the process speed along quicker. And in that response of offering them the phone interview, and after we've confirmed the phone interview time and date, we then have them call us. Now, this is after years of us calling them and them not answering, or them calling back late, or them forgetting, or blah, blah, blah. No. I want to see that they can self-manage, because they will be self-managing themselves when pet sitting. So they're going to have to go to their visits, make sure they're on time, etc. So we actually have them call us. And if they don't call us, it's an automatic call. There's no redos. Ultimately, there's no reschedules. If there is a late call, we give them a 5-minute buffer zone. After that, we do not answer the phone number when they call through or say, sorry, we're no longer available for that interview. We're on to our next interview type situation, and we are unable to reschedule. Thank you, but no thank you. And then last but not least is if they don't do either of those things and they just don't show, but then they message asking for a reschedule because of insert crazy story here that always magically happens within those 15 minutes they need to call us, then nope, sorry, we just don't trust that anymore. And the few times, honestly, that we did offer a reschedule, they never even fucking called anyway. So again, waste of our time. So we mostly do that phone interviews for that. And then we just confirm, we want to hear them on the phone. Our goal is to hear somebody that can hold a conversation basically and has some type of personality. I really don't care much about the questions. We're mostly just saying like, just confirming your availability. When is your wanted start date? What's your goals for the job? As a reminder, this is a part-time as needed job only. Do you have another full-time or other gig that's your primary situation or parenthood or a student, etc.? Because we want to make sure they're not holding out for a full-time job. That is another question, bonus tip, is a call questions. We ask them if they want part-time, full-time, or either. And if they put either and we're specifically hiring for part-time, we don't even move forward with them, because more often than not, they'll say they're interested in part-time, but really when a full-time opportunity comes up somewhere else, we are to the street, not interested anymore. All of a sudden they quit, ta-da-da. So that's another great call question. And we do ask those questions again on the phone interview, because you would be surprised when they say, oh, my availability has changed from just yesterday when I filled that out. So from that phone interview process, we then send them the opportunity, as we call it, to fill out a pre-employment survey, which we use through it's a company called Orion that has created the system of this pre-employment survey. It's a kind of like a psych eval situation, which has crazy correct statistics on it, and it has them answer questions, and based off of these questions, it gives you a percentage of probability of them being successful or unsuccessful in a few main components. That would be probability of theft, probability of illegal drug or alcohol abuse on the job, probability of long-term employment, probability of good communication with management, amongst other things. But the main one we focus on is theft. And theft is the number one thing that we will call from if the system says that they are going to be high probability or medium probability of theft. If opportunity arises, we do not move forward with them. And yes, that's really hard too, because we've had really great phone interviews and really great resumes, and they get to that and we have to call them. But the probability of the survey correctness, I forget the exact statistics that they gave us on the correctness of their test, but I want to say it was above 80% or something like that, which is insane. And they've had other companies that have opted to hire those people anyways, because they just seemed like great hires, and ended up having theft situations, which just leads to more correct statistic situations. So love Orion. Those cost us under $15, I want to say, per employment survey. Totally worth it in the long run. And then the last part is once they've passed that Orion survey, we then offer them a Zoom-based interview, usually with the owner of the company, aka myself. And then what we do is some more in-depth questions. Usually at that point, I already know I want to hire them. I'm just making sure everything else pans out. So these are if you are curious about questions that you can ask on phone interviews or Zoom-based interviews, or if you choose to do in-person, I can do a whole video on that too, because there's a ton of questions that I ask that hit on many factors of, interest and successfulness and pet information and all that fun stuff. But that Zoom interview at that point in time the phone interview probably takes 10 minutes, 15 minutes, unless they have a lot of questions. The Zoom interview, it takes 30 minutes to an hour based off of, we're going to be talking to them more about their hiring process, because at that point we offer them the job on the spot, because I don't want to waste my time or theirs anymore. And then the other things that we factor in is looking at, like, if they're interested, again, if they're conversational, if they actually dressed appropriately for the job interview, or I've had people walk out of their normal job and walk outside and like shade themselves and be like, yeah, this is my interview. And it's awful. They didn't even take the time to like do a purposeful, break during that time at least. Or we give them opportunities for other days. They could have chosen a different time and day. So those are automatic calls as well. So those are our 5 steps to our hiring and onboarding, our hiring process. And how does this translate to our clients being, more trustworthy of our care? One, more often than not, when I have a new potential client call us and they're asking questions and they seem hesitant, I just automatically start filling those awkward gaps of time in with, all of our jobs are done by our employees, fully background screened and bonded, covered under our bonding insurance. They all go through a 5-step hiring process, and we're really picky. I say typically we have about 300 applications in a month of hiring ad, and I said out of those 300 we typically hire 1 to 3 people only, and then I say we basically do the dirty work for you, where we find the best people to be in your home, taking care of your living, breathing creatures and in your safe space of your home with all your valuables and important items. And that really gives them comfort knowing, like, wow, they're not just hiring anybody from the street that's interested, or they're desperate and they're just filling the space with bodies. Nope, we will not do that, and they know that now, and that allows us to not only have clients have more trust with us, we end up charging a premium for our service because that value is shown through our actions, even on the simplest part of hiring our employees. So those are the ways that we ensure better success for our company. And after we started employees, honestly, this is crazy to think about this, but I was really hesitant to start employees for many, many reasons. But one of the main reasons it took me so long was because I was unsure of the process and getting the process started and all the attention to details and stuff that I couldn't find the right answers to. But once I started with employees, I kid you not, this is crazy to think, our revenue doubled consistently over the past 2 years, every year, during a process of crazy times, as we well know, for the past couple of years. So the employment not only allowed us to also have more control of our regulations and process and procedures and protocols, because we were able to train them more. We were able to require them to wear a uniform. We were able to tell them when they needed to show up, and it wasn't this if they chose to or if they wanted to have somebody go in their place, which luckily we never had those situations when we had ICs, but could have, because ICs are its whole thing. Again, whole other video concept on that. So ultimately, we saw so much benefit versus outweigh the cost that employees cost us and whatnot. But it all started with the 5-step onboarding and hiring process that we had with new employees. So I hope you guys have a great day. If you have any questions or want to know more specifics about each section of that 5-step hiring process, feel free to ask away. Again, my name is Amber Van Denzen, and as I always say, happy pets, happy people. So have a great day. Bye.